Hello everyone and welcome to the Armageddon Championship Series and its revolutionary format. We're coming to you live from our studios in Berlin. I'm Grandmaster Gustafsson and I'm delighted to be joined for the final time by Jovanka Houska. Jovanka, what happened to get here?
Pleasure to be here, Jan. And yesterday, that was an exciting day because we didn't just have one Armageddon, we had two. In the lower bracket, we saw Nodirbek Abdusattorov knock out Parham Maghsoodloo from the competition. And in the upper bracket, it was 16-year-old Gukesh that sent Vladimir Kramnik down to the lower bracket. Let's take a recap of what happened. Day 6 started with a big match between rivals Parham Maghsoodloo and Nodirbek Abdusattorov. The first game was a lively affair, but in the closing seconds, Maghsoodloo blundered the game away. In Game 2, Maghsoodloo struck back, which meant the match had to be decided in Armageddon. And in the Armageddon, it was Abdusattorov that prevailed.
The clash of our last two undefeated players saw 16-year-old Gukesh taking on Vladimir Kramnik. It was Gukesh who drew first blood, winning the first game. Kramnik struck right back in the second game and it came down to Armageddon. There it looked like Kramnik was in complete control, but then the clock kept ticking down. Gukesh managed to strike back, Kramnik didn't have time left, and the 16-year-old was the winner. This is the Asia-Oceania qualifier of the Armageddon Championship Series, but it's far from the only event. Let's have a look. What else we have? We're already done with the Americas. Two qualifiers emerged. Asia and Oceania will finish today. Europe and Africa coming up next, as well as the special Women's Week. And where does it all lead us?
Well, it leads us to the grand finale, and every two top finishers and every regional qualifier will qualify to that grand finale, and everyone will get that chance of winning the Armageddon Championship title. And all events are going to be broadcast live from the World Chess Club Berlin on one of its most famous streets, Unter den Linden. And
every event starts with 8 players. But there are only 3 left.
Exactly.
And they'll battle it out today. Who are these people?
Yeah, of course, we have some great names. We have living legend Vladimir Kramnik. He will fight it out against Nodirbek Abdusattorov for that place in the final. And awaiting them at the top is 16-year-old Gukesh. And we have to mention one of our partners because without them it's not possible. Kaspersky. As a technology and digital privacy company, Kaspersky supports the secure advancement of chess in the digital space and its expansion into online tournaments. A perfect combination of human excellence and strong technology.
Let's have a look at the format of this event. It's a double-elimination tournament, and that could make things complicated today. You have to lose twice until you're out, and we see Gukesh has not lost a single match yet. So Abdusattorov and Vladimir Kramnik are facing elimination now, but then the winner faces Gukesh, and should he beat Gukesh, they have to play again.
Yeah, we could see 3 matches today. And well, we're getting close to the start. First up, we're going to see Nodirbek Abdusattorov, Vladimir Kramnik fight it out. And then right at the top is Gukesh on his second life. And these are the 3 players remaining. But let's have a look at their roads to the final.
Today is the last day of the tournament and only 3 players remain in the running for tournament victory. Let's see how they all got here. First off, we have Nodirbek Abdusattorov from Uzbekistan. He started his tournament with a convincing 2-0 victory over Vidit. Next up, he actually lost to Gukesh after failing to convert 2 winning positions and losing the Armageddon. This meant he was now in the elimination bracket where he won his first match against Murali 2-0. And just yesterday he beat Parham Maghsoodloo in an exciting match going down all the way to the wire to set up today's match against Kramnik. The legendary 14th world champion Kramnik is of course the other player still in the running. He started his tournament in impressive fashion, beating Dubov 2-1 in a crazy Armageddon game where he won on time with only 1 second remaining on the clock. Next up, he played Maghsoodloo, a match he won very convincingly, 2-0. And finally, just yesterday, in the clash of generations, Kramnik went down 2-1 against Gukesh after he was better in all 3 games. That leaves us with the one man who has won all his matches here, 16-year-old Gukesh from India. He started his tournament by convincingly beating Yangyi from China. Then he survived a crazy match against Abdusattorov. He was worse in both blitz games before dominating the Armageddon. And then just yesterday, Gukesh came up against his mentor Vladimir Kramnik, a match he won after a very close fight, taking it all the way to Armageddon. Gukesh was suffering in all 3 games, but in the end, he kept his cool, and he is now awaiting his final opponent.
So Kramnik is of course a very experienced player, one of the biggest legends in chess, and I mean he's very positional, prophylactic, and he's of course good at other parts also, but his main strengths are prophylaxis and just grinding out his opponent. And Abdu is also quite positional, and his defensive skills are also amazing. Often he gets into trouble, but he gets out of trouble often. So yeah, Abdusattorov's main strength I would say is defense, and Kramnik maybe positional chess.
Would you rather get a rematch against Gukesh or would you rather play Kramnik?
Of course, at the start of the tournament I said that I very much want to play against Kramnik because I didn't play against him in a serious game.
You will play Nodirbek Abdusattorov. He told me that you guys have never played any game either over the board or even online. He said you played the other day here after the opening. What are your thoughts about that upcoming match?
No, it's very interesting to play with best junior players, I mean, one after another. So, yeah, I'm looking forward, really, I'm looking forward. It will not be easy, of course, it will be difficult, but yeah, I mean, if I manage to keep the level and don't make crazy things, well, I have my chances, I think, but that's a question. It's day after, you know, day by day, yeah, it's some days you are fine, some days it's worse at my age, but I'm looking forward, yeah, to this match.
Kramnik called his first opponent Abdusattorov one of the best junior players in the world, but I think Abdusattorov is just one of the best in the world, so Kramnik will have his hands full in this first matchup.
He certainly will, and both these players, they've had a topsy-turvy ride. Yesterday, Kramnik lost to Gukesh in quite a nail-biting affair, and whereas Abdusattorov, he managed to overpower Parham in the Armageddon. Now, they haven't played each other, so how will they play today, especially when a spot in the final gets them a place in the grand finale?
I've done the math. Kramnik is 13 years older than Gukesh and Abdusattorov combined, so he does have the lead in experience. But as he said, as you get older, it can be very day by day. A lot will depend on the opening as well. They're both great theoreticians. Kramnik has usually managed to outfox his younger opponents early, and then the question is if he manages to hang in there, especially when time gets low.
And let's check out their stats. And here we have Nodirbek Abdusattorov, just 18 years old, became Grandmaster at 13. He was the youngest world rapid champion ever at the age of 17 in 2021, and also led the Uzbek team to gold medals in 2022. And I love this, in the under-8, when he won that World Youth Championship, he had an epiphany where he decided professional life was for him. And he will be up against Vladimir Kramnik, living legend.
Kramnik has been an absolute top player since the early 90s, veteran of a bunch of World Championship matches, of course, beat Kasparov in 2000, then defended his title against Leko, Topalov, lost to Arnold in 2008, three-time Olympiad winner, 14th classical world champion. He's done it all, but can he fight off the youth?
Well, we'll find out because we are less than a minute away from the start of play. And here is what the players are gonna be up to. They'll play 2 blitz games of 3 minutes plus 2 seconds. If the match is tied, it will go to Armageddon. There will be a winner. And take a look at the prize fund, because first place nets 18,000 euros, second place 8,000 euros. And the most important stat of all is what happens in Armageddon.
White gets 5 minutes, but has to win the game.
And here we have our international arbiter, Tanya Karoli. She's been an arbiter since 2016, one of the most important people in the room. And we are less than 20 seconds away from the start of play. Abdusattorov has the white pieces against big Vlad playing with the black pieces. And 5 seconds. The tension is palpable.
Let's go. Handshake. Press the clock. Play d4. No, e4. Also good. And Kramnik back with the French defense. He was luring Gukesh into it. And it seems like he wasn't bluffing. h6 is a modern move. A pawn sacrifice. Bishop takes f6. Queen takes f6. And White can accept the pawn or can decline by playing a3, denying the pin. But Abdusattorov says, give me that pawn. Bishop out.
And well, I can say that Nodirbek, judging by the speed of which he's making the moves, is not surprised at
they
all.
They both know this, of course. This is a trendy line. I'm curious, it's a bit out of character for Kramnik. A little speculative what he has up his sleeve, because when I checked this, I thought White was a little better. Let's see how Kramnik does it. He's trying to regain that pawn on d4 by putting pressure. Now attacks with the knight. Clearly, still doing his homework after all these years.
And talking about pressure and lack of pressure, I mean, take a look at those heart rates. Nodirbek at 103, whereas Kramnik seems to be at the lowest I've ever seen him.
119, he's getting up there, but he's still playing the moves from memory, so not too much stress yet, as you can see by the engine bar. It's very much in the middle. You see more white, white is better. You see more black, black is better. That seems balanced, just as the heart rates.
And the king gets to safety. And Kramnik, again, just blitzing out the moves, putting pressure on the d4 pawn.
Oh, can we give a check? Can we give a check? It's not a problem? No. Knight to e4, Abdusattorov playing for tricks. Now you can't take his queen, because White would take the black queen with a check with his knight, and then take the rook. So the queen has to get out of the way, maybe go all the way back to d8. Looks like Abdusattorov is not rattled the least by his big opponent.
Okay, he centralizes the queen, but I'm a little bit nervous about the fact that the black queen is eyed up by the white rook.
This just looks better for White. I might not have to change my opinion about this line. I'm a bit surprised. I think Kramnik was trying to catch him off guard, but he failed. First time I see Kramnik losing an opening battle in this event.
And well, Kramnik still unfazed, develops the light square bishop, planning to reroute it to d5. And well, Abdusattorov kicking out that rook as quickly as he can play, and the rook will just have to go back. Has to be careful where he puts the rook. Don't put it in a silly square.
Yeah, black's position is not too bad, but he has these crippled pawns on the queen side. The knight also has a very potentially nice outpost on the c5 square, so even an endgame looks somewhat tempting for White. But Abdusattorov, not in a rush, tries to restrict that light square bishop by going to pawn to b3 and pawn to c4. Nice little positional plan there.
And well, Kramnik spots that idea and says, hey, let me try to destabilize those pawns on the queen side, planning perhaps a5, a4, and again, looks like Nodirbek has seen this position on his analysis board at home, because he's just playing the moves at tempo.
Yeah, well prepared, confident, heart rate barely scratching 100. Kramnik has his work cut out for him in this game. Because Abdusattorov is also a tremendous technician. Sometimes with young players you think, okay, they might be good at tactics, but the end game they haven't mastered. Certainly the opposite for this young man who feels like a fish in water in any chess game.
And here it goes again.
Picking up
A4
a
met
pawn.
by knight c3. I mean, I don't...
Just going for the pawn.
Well, okay, he can move the queen and then... And then just bishop takes pawn if knight takes pawn.
I think... I don't know. I might
Got to be careful.
fantasizing here, but I think I might have seen something similar. Knight takes a4, bishop takes c4, trying to regain that pawn. Abdusattorov might indeed still be well in his book. Queen to c3, offering an endgame. Certainly an option. It's the first time he's thinking a little bit.
There was some choices to be made. I mean, can he dive down with a rook to the 7th row? I also like your idea of swapping off queens. And Vladimir Kramnik, I have to mention the clock situation. He has less than a minute, which does mean that he will be beginning to feel the pressure. One thing I've noticed about playing with no time on the clock is that the human mind seems to be able to withstand it for about maybe 20-30 moves, and then at some point it just cracks, and then you see a descent into pure panic and madness. And well, nice move from Nodirbek, making some luft for the king.
Feels a bit slow. He doesn't want to exchange the queens, but he allows Kramnik to stabilize somewhat. Now he's going for it. But he spent a couple moves that I'm not sure were needed, because now the rook can come to g6, hitting the g2 pawn, for example, asking some questions. Kramnik thinking about it.
Now we're going to see trade. Moving
But
the
he
bishop back.
decides to go passive. He chooses suffering. His
Yeah.
hand is a little shaky. How's the heart rate? Still 120? Doesn't look like 120.
Okay, rook c2.
One
Sorry.
still in trouble. Might not look like much equal pawns, but white has this passed a pawn.
Ooh.
Black really has to be
Can you... Okay,
quick.
so the idea is if you pounce on the c5 pawn by playing knight a4, well, that's going to be met by
Pawn to
c4.
Yeah, that's his idea. So Abdusattorov passes, take to meet c4 by advancing his own pawn to b4.
King is gonna
Abdusattorov,
walk in.
strong technician that he is, brings the king into the center, covers everything. He's doing well here.
Pieces.
Don't play c4, Vladi. b4 is still coming. Yeah, he bring the king. And
Now,
now
it's coming.
oh, was this missed? Bishop f5 the pin. We have a rook endgame. Should still be better for white, but rook endgames are notoriously drawish, even though they're lost plenty.
I'm not sure about this one because white's a pawn, that's a dangerous pawn. It's passed. Okay, the rook comes down to e3. Rook b8.
Should be drawish. Rook b8 followed by c4. But Kramnik has to make up his mind. He starts with c4, also very possible.
This is a
Takes,
nice way to
we've
neutralize
equalized.
everything.
We headed for a draw.
We are. King goes to g3, and Kramnik just blitzing out the moves. He's got 34 seconds left. But
Players do get 2 seconds extra per move, so it's not that desperate yet. And Kramnik knows what he's doing here. The question is, can he ask some questions? His king is a little more active. Abdusattorov, who was pushing most of the game, now has to be careful not to get into trouble here. And he's willing to give a pawn to get his rook to the 7th rank.
Yep. Well, Kramnik says no, I'm not going to go for that. And now Abdusattorov has to defend the weak c5 pawn.
Nice move, fishing for some weakness. If f6, then the rook steps forward, attacks the other pawn. He's just a good technician. He's not getting in trouble here. We might be headed for a draw.
Maybe. But somehow I suspect that Vlad, he smells that this could be a good chance for him to push.
Push what?
Well, there you go. He's moving his king to the edge of the board because the c5 pawn is weak. Rook is going to... Oh, I mean, like talking about that, how is he going to defend it?
He gave up the pawn, and now it's still a theoretical draw. Abdusattorov certainly has to work. Can't be happy with it.
King now moving towards the action. And where's Kramnik going to go? Probably to d6. And, okay, Abdusattorov trying to establish an outside pass pawn, so that's why we see f6. And, woo, white's rook is active. And black's extra pawn, unfortunately, is far from its promotion square, and that's why Kramnik gets it motoring.
G5 was a beautiful square for the rook, covering the G7 pawn and the C5 pawn, but now H6 is looming, so Kramnik is feeling a little shaky, maybe.
Yeah, his hands are shaking as well, and yeah, unfortunately, how is Black going to mobilize? Whoa,
Check.
big
Could
decision.
take en passant, or you could keep the H passer. Does Abdusattorov maybe smell a chance with that pawn? Yeah, he keeps it.
Of course. Protected pass pawns, the best type of pawn there is. And now he's going to get his rook in front of this pass pawn. But, oh, be careful with where you put the king, Kramnik.
Still drawish, but Kramnik, even though he's a pawn up, it feels like Kramnik is pushing his luck here a little bit.
He's got 10 seconds. And now he's advancing the c pawn. Okay.
Storov decides to wait. I think he's correctly spotted that Black can't make progress so easily, but the pawn can be pushed to c2, so it's still tricky.
Yeah, and
Oh, he's calculated that he can take and now wait, and he is correct with g-pawns on the board. Nothing you can do. So draw agreed. Good fight. Abdusattorov pushing early, then had to defend. Tough game, tough game. Well played by both.
yeah, I have to say, very evenly matched by the two. I mean, it looked like the two players were trading advantages, but that's about it. And there we see the players have started off with a draw, which means if someone wins the next game, that's it, no Armageddon. They will go straight through to the final where Gukesh awaits them. And let's look at some of the critical moments. And here we see Kramnik play a very trendy opening, sacrificing a pawn in the opening.
Yeah, Abdusattorov well prepared for this turn of events. Got a tiny plus by clearly knowing how to handle it, but then he could not quite make Kramnik suffer. We'll see that later.
Yeah, and definitely it was quite instructive by Kramnik how he manages to neutralize Abdusattorov's play. And here, to me, White seems a lot better. You know, there are some double pawns on the board for Black, but Kramnik, he handles the complications very well, and he managed to neutralize this.
Yeah, he was suffering for a while, but once he exchanged that knight and simplified, now it was even Kramnik who started playing for a win. Went on to cut off the white king, had to go to the king side, defend his pawn, and the black king is more active. Kramnik will eventually even be up a pawn.
Yes. Ooh, and we're going to see some more moments, and here we see Abdusattorov just secure the draw by netting the f6 pawn, and after the pawn goes to c2, the rook gets behind it, and that's it. The players agree a draw, and now the colors will be switched. We are less than 1 minute from the start of the second game. Whose chances do you fancy, Jan?
Well, Kramnik has white now. He's still a tremendous theoretician. Will try to put pressure early. If we recall his game against Gukesh, he didn't let Gukesh get out of the opening with the white pieces. Abdusattorov will try to avoid that fate. I think Abdusattorov should be happy with a draw here and make it into the Armageddon, where maybe he can rely on his higher speed, because Kramnik, we see, is quick in the opening, but then when the battle proceeds, his hand can get a little shaky when he gets low on time.
Definitely, we saw it there as well, in a relatively stable position. Kramnik was nervous. Okay, less than 10 seconds. The players, they don't have that much time to reset and refocus, but we are seconds away from the beginning of the critical second game, and they are off. And Kramnik, well, he's opening with his king's pawn. Petrov
opening.
From
Kramnik knows a little something about.
He certainly does. And there he goes, and we have a very symmetrical pawn structure. Actually, position, full stop. And now the dragon develops and starts hovering around the black knight. And, well, Abdusattorov
all of this
you can
still
play that
theory,
game.
and actually there's a pet line of Abdusattorov's coach, Rustam Kazimchanov, who used it to good effect as pawn to c4, pawn to c6, and then pawn to c5, trying to gain space on the queen side and pushing for a tight edge here. But Abdusattorov obviously knows what he's dealing with, probably because he informed him about that line, and not spending any time, not sweating, heart rate 95. Well prepared young man.
He is well prepared. I'm slightly disappointed that they followed the paths of theory and didn't keep the position completely symmetrical. But here we go. There's some tiny imbalances in the position. White's managed to get some play, some pressure on the center, and here comes the expansion. Kramnik going for the big clamp. Now
That
he's
is
going
White's
to
idea.
back that up by a4, b5.
Push on the queen side, but Black does have a very sturdy position. Abdusattorov is not gonna wait around for the white pawns to push. Instead goes for counterplay, double-edged, because they say you should not open the position on the side where you're weaker, but touch the pawns there. Abdusattorov doesn't care.
Yeah, and instead he is also trying to get some counterplay there on the E line. Good idea to cover the entry points, and Kramnik says no, actually, I'm just simply gonna throw the B pawn forward. And Black, you've got nothing on the E line.
His rooks both occupy open files though, so it doesn't strike me as particularly dangerous. For Abdusattorov, he has to find a way to get his queen out of that pin so his knight can jump to the middle of the board. Move like queen to c8 maybe, yeah, there he goes. So freeing up the horsey.
Yeah, and Kramnik actually scoring a new low. He's down to 114 at some point, now gone up to 117.
So
and the
chill.
heart rate's very, very calm. And Abdusattorov barely using any time on the clock, and also with a very steady heart rate of 107. He's a controlled young man. And this seen a trade of rooks. The position looks very level to me.
That's what Abdusattorov does. He plays very solid openings, he knows them well, he plays them very quickly, tries to avoid blunders, put pressure on the clock. If it comes to an endgame, he's excellent at that too. He's very, very hard to beat in this format. And now that Kramnik did not manage to get an edge in the opening, I do not see Abdusattorov losing this game. Black is very stable. The king can come to g7, the knight goes to e6. His plan of pushing the b pawn no longer does so much damage, because as you've taught us, if you have less space, you exchange some minor pieces. That's what he's done. So it should not be a big deal.
No. And I like the way that he's mobilizing his forces. And ooh,
Nice move, b5, stopping the white breakthrough there. I prefer Black's position actually. Computer didn't like this b5 that much, but it says it's still roughly balanced.
Yeah, I agree with
Rook to a4,
you.
get it past her.
Yeah, I like that move as well. I also quite like the idea of there you
So
go.
does Nodirbek. Kramnik takes, he picks up the gauntlet. Now he could push his pawn to b5, but it's risky because Black would take and then support his a pawn with his queen. It's become double-edged.
It is double-edged.
I don't like White's chances here.
Well, the computer is saying that Black is slightly better, but White's position is more than defensible, and now Kramnik stepping
slow
up
move, very
with
slow
his
move.
king, just to cover those weaknesses on the king side.
Queen is not going there. He wants to go to a6 and push the a pawn.
That's right. Well, there it
comes
is.
the queen.
But Kramnik has a very solid position. You know, the knights defend each other. I mean, it's not very aggressive, but you know,
Black
on the
knight
other
has to
hand,
come to b5 and support that pawn. It's a long maneuver, but maybe it can be done. Move the bishop, knight to c7, knight to b5. Do we have time?
yeah, you have time. But White also has a plan of putting the knight to
knight to
b1 and
b1.
rerouting to c3. There
it
you
comes.
go.
We're just getting started. Knight c7, knight c3, queen d3, and this could get very messy.
Well,
Here we are.
we're in for a lot of fun because this is Armageddon chess, and we are gonna be entertained. What's wrong with
We
that?
should praise us. We spot the same maneuvers, just slightly more quickly. It's like Nakamura said about Chris Littlejohn and Kasparov. They come to the same conclusions, just Chris a little quicker.
Well, I thought it was the reverse.
No,
Normally
no.
I'm
That's
quite
what
a
it says.
slow one. Okay, there goes knight goes to
Oh, he's
b5.
giving up the pawn, but he's activating his pieces to the max. Still, it's a pawn. Something's gone wrong for Nodirbek. Doesn't look like he's much worse, but of course that a pawn was quite a trump. Now
Well,
his king has to pay some attention. Because if you go away with the bishop, queen a8, knight d7 was there, putting pressure on the king.
Ooh, tricky move by Nodirbek.
Nice move.
Because seemingly
Pinning.
you can come with the queen to a8, but there's problems with the white knight on f3 and the king. Knight takes d4 could be in the air. Ooh, this is heating up nicely, and Kramnik now under a minute. His heart rate has risen to 129.
Calculating
It
what to do.
is
Knight
getting-
c8, knight d7. There comes the knight.
Whatever Kramnik can make any move except not move the bishop from the d8 h4 diagonal. Don't do that. Step up with the king.
To g7 looks like a normal move for Abdusattorov. He's hesitating, but there he goes. Pawn to h4, and he takes it. Tactic. If the pawn
Nice.
takes, then there's a queen check. So Abdusattorov, with his little trick, regained the pawn.
And
But is this the end of the story? Nice spot by Nodirbek, who now is going for the attack. G5, G4 coming. Kramnik still has a defense. Queen e1 offering the queen exchange. They're both so resilient, and Vladimir Kramnik with an extra pawn might still be better here.
yes, he certainly is. And the players now both under the minute. And as you say, Kramnik with a better position. He has a beautiful passed pawn on a c5. That is one that is going to win the game, as long as Kramnik can consolidate the position. And he steps forward with the queen, attacks the g5 pawn. This is dangerous, very dangerous for Abdusattorov. He is
Just be bad. He will continue looking for counterplay. Knight to c3, hinting at knight to d1. But does it work? The computer seems to say no, it does not. How do you punish him?
You just take the pawn.
Knight to d1. Then is there a trick?
I don't see any
Just
other
queen
problem.
to
Take the
f4,
pawn and move the queen.
Take the pawn. Leave the cannoli.
Ooh. And if Kramnik wins this game, that means he is going straight through to the final.
Abdusattorov
will be
on the
eliminated.
brink of elimination.
23 seconds, and the young Uzbeki is in big trouble on the board.
Nothing works. He wanted to put the knight to d1 and take the queen. The queen goes to f4, and then if the knight gets taken, there's
10
a check.
seconds.
So he has to go for something else in this desperation. But he's a very resourceful player, even in desperate situations.
Ooh, is there a threat? No threat.
Almost, but the knight on h3 covers it.
How many seconds? 9
Still
seconds
some.
for Kramnik.
How do you add fuel to the flames here? Takes the pawn.
Okay, one pawn has dropped off for Kramnik, and he's just on his seconds, and we
Check.
give a check.
And
This
the
is all
pawn
good.
runs. This is good enough. Everything's protected.
You throw in some checks, build in some time, but Kramnik goes, nope, I'm going to grab some material. But Kramnik has to keep an eye on the clock. He only has 11 seconds left.
He does get 2 seconds per move. I think he's in control here. This knight on h3 just does such a great job covering everything.
Okay, I completely agree with you. But the bishop on b6 is a great blockader. It can cause some issue. Okay. Oh,
go
don't
away.
pick up the c pawn.
We are near
Nothing
the
except that one.
end here, but can Kramnik put it all together? Queen to d8, nice move. Hinting at queen g5 check yet again. Pawns are also rolling. There comes a check. Just trying to gain some time.
Yeah.
This is the phase where we see sometimes
3 seconds.
some struggles from Kramnik down to his last seconds. He's
And
still
the
much
panic is real. And both players on seconds, and Kramnik just doesn't seem to be just collecting his thoughts. He's there repeating the position. Oh, hang on a second.
Nodirbek is claiming that was not the cleanest way to move the queen. I mean, it made it to the square. It's not fully centralized. But these kids, they don't allow Kramnik get away with anything. I like it.
Yeah.
Tanya will check the replay, give Vladimir his first warning or not, and we shall continue. The problem with Nodirbek calling the arbiter is he gives Kramnik a time to catch his breath and think about the position. And Kramnik is, of course, completely winning on the board, so giving him this extra minute to consider the position might really backfire, because now he can use it to formulate a plan. I think it was better to leave him there in this 5-second state. Well, now, of course, they pretend like they're arguing, but he's thinking about the winning plan.
Well, these players, they know all the stunts and all the tricks.
No, but I think Nodirbek tricked himself. Yeah, here we can see Kramnik a little shaky. That wasn't what Nodirbek took issue with.
I mean, I just wondered whether it was a threefold repetition that he's claiming.
I don't think so. You think he's not claiming foul play, but a threefold?
Yeah.
But it wasn't, was it?
I didn't feel it was, but it wouldn't be for that wobble,
just said,
right?
Move the pieces properly, but you could be right.
Okay, and the players discussing with the arbiter.
What are they arguing? If the piece made it to e5 or not?
I have no idea. But there we can actually see the heart rates of both the players while
Nodirbek's heart rate is going up. It's never been as high as when he's debating. I'm enjoying this. We should have this more often.
We should definitely. And the arbiter is such an important part of the game when it comes to Armageddon chess. And Tanya Karoli, she's been an international arbiter since 2016. She's got a degree in applied mathematics, is also fluent in Greek, English, and what else? Spanish?
I have no idea. I don't speak any of these languages. Nodirbek seems to be having a great time there, smiling. He's on the verge of elimination here, but seems very laid back.
Oh.
What are they doing? Did he resign? What's going on?
Well,
why would he resign? They agreed to draw. Wow, that's a good deal for Nodirbek. That's why he was so happy.
It was a threefold repetition.
So he was right about the threefold. How do you even think of that with no time on the clock? That's just amazing. Didn't even occur to me.
And Nodirbek surviving.
Is that what happened?
A lost position. And the players are now going to get ready for Armageddon.
Oof, that escalated quickly. What presence of mind there by Nodirbek. I thought he just took offense with Kramnik not moving the piece properly, but he actually counted till 3.
And here we can see the score after 2 games. 2 draws. And that means only one thing. Armageddon time, where white will get 5 minutes, black will get 4 minutes, and black will have draw odds. Oh no. That means Nodirbek has the psychological advantage because Kramnik must be kicking himself. Okay, here Kramnik is playing so well.
Yeah, this is where it started going wrong, because Nodirbek dominated the first part of the game, but when he lost that A-pawn, now Kramnik started excellently consolidating his position, putting pressure. But I want a replay of the threefold, if we can get that. I think it won't be so easy, because it probably wasn't like 3 in a row, but stretched out over multiple moves. So amazing presence of mind by Nodirbek. Here we see him fighting back, taking that pawn, can't recapture it.
You see that flurry of tactics, but look at the presence of mind that Kramnik has. You know, he manages to retreat the knight, and after the bishop goes back, he just says, okay.
Queen e1 was a key move, because it looks like you're losing the knight to the g-pawn, but Queen e1 threatening the exchange of queens, very, very timely move. Kramnik's playing well, just when they're down to the last second, sometimes things get a little out of control for him.
He doesn't manage to hold his nerve. I mean, it's understandable when the clock is ticking down, the heart rate is pounding, and here we see...
I'm going to look for the threefold. Okay. So it was the queen on e5. Here, there was
the queen on
e5.
More. There was one.
And there was the black king.
Here we see...
the bishop was on different square, was on b6. And it returns to b6. Queen on e5.
There we see it go to f6. And he just drops it back. And we can see the nerves.
And this is where Nodirbek claims we haven't quite seen the same position thrice, but apparently he knew what he was doing. Impressive stuff, if correct. Now they will have very little time to adjust for the Armageddon, starting just under a minute.
Yeah. Oof. What color would you choose if you were playing an Armageddon?
I think against, depends who you are. I think if you're Kramnik, you want the 5 minutes. He can put a lot of pressure with the white pieces. Not that many such blitz games end in draws. So I would take the extra time. And the other way around, as Nodirbek, I would give Kramnik less time and also try my luck with the white pieces.
Well, 23 seconds until the start of play. We see the room is black. The players will be alone with their thoughts, trying to refocus from the drama that happened in game 2. And ooh.
Who gets white? Nodirbek white, 5 minutes. Kramnik black, 4 minutes. Nodirbek Abdusattorov has to win the Armageddon or he's out of the tournament.
And opening with the
Another
king
French. Nodirbek not against repeating that line. He got an advantage last time around. And he says, let's play it again. But he chooses a different move, pawn to a3. I mentioned that's the other option. But Kramnik, of course, prepared for all these eventualities. And I liked what he did in the first game better. This, I think, is fine for black.
Yeah. Well, black's position is solid, and Nodirbek stating his aggressive intentions already by saying, hey,
So
don't
Kramnik,
castle
though.
kingside.
Because there's a target. You can go b5, b4 against this king on c1. Don't like how this went for Nodirbek.
Ooh, that looks tricky, to say the least.
Very much so. Also important, black can make his moves very quickly, while Nodirbek now has to take a moment, trying to figure out where the target is.
And he steps forward with a queen. Are we going to see b5?
Sure.
Yes.
Now white will try to counter in the center, going e takes d5, opening the position up before it gets crushed there on the queen side.
And Kramnik, well, his heart rate has gone up to 130. How do you think he's feeling?
No, he
Knight
keeps
comes-
shuffling around. That's a bit passive. Knight to e2. Yeah, computer hates it, not surprisingly. D takes e4 is there, knight f6 is there, and pawn to b4 is there. Nodirbek's trying to keep the queen side closed, but he's paying a high price.
He is paying a high price. I was a bit baffled by that last move.
Knight to f6 looks very strong.
Yeah.
The knight can jump to g4, and there comes the knight.
Oh.
This has not gone well for Abdusattorov.
And okay, still early days though. Kramnik with 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and Nodirbek 4 minutes, and there is no increment whatsoever in Armageddon. What you see on the clock is what you get.
Kramnik
And
going for the endgame,
endgame. Oh,
allowing Nodirbek to somewhat stabilize.
Have to.
Of course, he has in
have
mind
to take it.
that he's trying to provoke queen to a2, because then the c6 pawn is hanging, so he's still waiting. Also hoping for short castles, which will allow checkmate in 1, queen h7.
Yeah, and it would be a miracle for Nodirbek if Kramnik fell into that. But okay, now
Unlikely. Now it looks
Kramnik?
like white can maybe try to push a little bit. Knight to e5. This looks pleasant all of a sudden.
Knight's gonna come.
Kramnik's
to
done
c4.
something wrong, I don't even know what. But this all of a sudden looks very unpleasant because the two bishops aren't doing anything. The king can't get out of the middle. White just has to find a way to improve his position. He decides on pushing the pawns.
Well, he's offering his bishop up for a trade, and also
He's not taking.
he's not taking. I was also wondering whether the king could stop running at the right time. Obviously not now.
He needs a target. He will go h5, then rook h3, rook g3, try to attack that pawn on g7. Textbook play from Abdusattorov.
Centralizing the
Kramnik
rook.
just in time to meet rook g3 with king to f8. Nice defense by the 14th world champion. Does it anyway, but now what's next? Rook to the middle.
Looks good. I'm also tempted to go knight c4 just for fun. Okay, the rook doubles up and solidifying the pawn structure. Nice stuff from Nodirbek, and wow, Nodirbek actually with less time.
No,
on the
no,
clock.
no, don't look at that one.
Oh,
If we
sorry.
look at the actual clock, Nodirbek is slightly ahead, not by much, but it's 2:46 versus 2:30. I was surprised because Nodirbek is always so quick. There you go. There you can see it.
Yeah, my bad. Okay, now breaking out in the center. Very good stuff.
Beck will try to keep it close with pawn to d5, but maybe he cannot because the pawn on a4 is hanging. Did he miss that? See, the standard reaction would be to push your pawn up to d5, but he can't do it, so he has to allow further exchanges. That should solve most of Kramnik's problems.
And pawn
There
takes
he goes.
That's still not easy.
No. The knight on c4 is pretty strong, targeting the a5 pawn. How's Kramnik gonna fix it? Defensive with the rook. Asking Nodirbek to make any progress.
Also, there's a threat on the h5 pawn. Don't forget to look both ways.
Oh, I did not, but he can still cover it. Pawn to g4 or bishop to f3. Yeah, he steps back.
Are we going to see? Okay, bishop attacks the rook. Very nice.
Giving the rook is square on d6. Is it
But hang on a second.
tempting?
The white king is not safe because the bishop can park itself on c3 and then, you know.
Noticed, but it.
Oh, nice idea from Kramnik.
Yeah, trying to free his position. Taking the pawn. If white recaptured, he would take the knight, but Nodirbek has his eyes set on the a5 pawn to restore the material balance. Kramnik thinking about it. What's the clock?
Don't think
He's
too
been
long.
fast enough. He's been fast enough so far. But Nodirbek not going for exchanges. He knows he has to win.
Well, he said
This
in
is
the
Armageddon.
It is the Armageddon, and the knight is threatening to come to d6 and win the bishop. So king steps forward.
Now what?
Abdusattorov.
Check.
Yeah.
Also playing the clock nicely there, making Kramnik decide on every move.
What's he gonna do? Step back with
Go
the
back.
king?
Draws enough. e2. What's that about? He's covering the knight so that after pawn to a4 he can now capture it.
But
And his knight is protected.
But the
Looks
clock
very slow.
situation is worrying. Kramnik now ticking down to the minute mark, whereas Nodirbek has just under 2 minutes.
Bishop d8, solid move, keeping everything covered. Kramnik is perfectly fine on the board. But once again, you have to finish the game in the time given.
And you were right with the strategy. Okay, now he's locking down the bishop, and obviously, and there is a big threat of bishop takes pawn. But the position is still not easy for Kramnik to handle. And okay, this is a nice move. That knight was very pesky. Okay, now we see a trade of pieces.
I'm not sure I like that try. Rook c3 I like. And once again, Kramnik not always putting his pieces in the cleanest possible way. He's still fine with the extra pawn and the active rook. Can Nodirbek make this a fight? Because Kramnik has 39 seconds. You have to make him work here. And he goes for a repetition, smart choice.
Yeah.
Very hard for Nodirbek to avoid it. Kramnik knows, of course, you can see the little head shake there. How's Nodirbek gonna ask a question here?
Well,
We'll have to part ways with the g3 and potentially the f4 pawn to keep the game going. Wants to go 95 check. King steps back. Yeah, this is desperate measures, but he has no choice. This is Armageddon. Gotta keep the game going.
Yeah. And the king is going to take a step back, and Kramnik just blitzing
now
out the moves.
speeding
He
up.
doesn't
He's of
have so
course
much
winning.
time.
And Nodirbek desperately
He's gonna throw in a
looking
jack.
for a way to make
Rook
a
takes
fight out
pawn.
of it.
Not an easy, still not easy for
Oh,
Kramnik.
no, and Kramnik. You can see he's lost a bit of control, but he's still not in trouble on the board. He's on the clock though. Nodirbek looking for a way to ask another question. It's not obvious how to do it. Gives a couple checks, allows the black king to centralize. And those were a bunch of pleasantly quick moves for Kramnik, also improving his situation by running the king up the board.
Oh no.
Kramnik bring the rook back, losing a pawn in the process. Yeah, this is the stage of the game where sometimes
Okay.
you see Kramnik's hand
Kramnik,
drifting a
no
little
time, 10 seconds. He's not
bit. Time
gonna
is
do
running
it.
out. Is he gonna be upset about being
Well,
flagged in a
he's-
good position or not?
Well, he's blundered away.
You gotta
but
play it
this
out,
is a draw.
and yeah, but you can't move the pawn forward to 2 squares and put it wherever you like. Arbiter, do something.
And okay, there's just no way it's gonna happen. And we see
Kramnik flagged, but
lose
yeah,
time.
he's not happy about it. He did, however, know that this is Armageddon and white has to win the game. Abdusattorov did what he had to do.
He did, and in the end, Kramnik's enemy was none other than the clock, and it is Nodirbek Abdusattorov who nets a place in the final and also punches a ticket right to the grand finale, which will be taking place in September. So congratulations, and Nodirbek will be facing off against Gukesh.
Again?
Again, it is Groundhog Day, and here we see some fantastic moments from that nerve-wracking Armageddon game. And we saw Kramnik, he did get the upper hand in terms of the position, but it was the clock that was his downfall.
Yeah, it's a story we see in his games often. He still has tremendous preparation, tremendous class, tremendous understanding, but then when it comes to seconds, he can sometimes struggle. And I also don't think, as he's expressed in the past, his dislike for this kind of frivolous activity, that it's something he does regularly. But there, you can't move the pawn from B4 to C2, B2. That's not how it works.
And then he
it's hard to complain. King B7, also not a legal move. King to D9. No, you can't keep the king where it was Zugzwang. Come on, one legal move. Yeah, it's hard to complain there if you're Kramnik and you haven't made one legal move for the last 10 moves. Abdusattorov just moved his piece around. What to do? It's the format. No interviews. Kramnik probably not thrilled about the outcome there. That means we're moving on to the next match very soon after Abdusattorov won the Armageddon there.
And there we can see, in terms of the highest heart rates, Nodirbek Abdusattorov got a high point of 142, and for Vladimir Kramnik, well, we felt it there, 155. Oi, 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 oi. One feels for the former world champion, but these are the rules of the game. Armageddon chess, it is brutal, it is raw, but it is fun. And let's check out some of the highlights.
Plenty highlights.
And we have to mention our partners, IT.com, which is one of the most fantastic websites you had. It's the official partner of the Armageddon Championship Series. IT.com, a domain registry like no other. It provides a platform for anyone to create innovative domains and effectively showcase their online presence. Don't miss this opportunity. Visit IT.com today and create your unique online image.
I don't want to miss the opportunity to see another clash between Gukesh and Abdusattorov, two of the, if not the, big leaders of this fresh young generation of super talents that we have. 16 versus 18, and these two have plenty history. The biggest and most outstanding memory, maybe that game at the Chess Olympiad where their respective teams, Uzbekistan and India too, were fighting for the gold medal. Gukesh, representing India too, believe it or not, won his first 8 games, but then lost a key game to Abdusattorov. In the end, Uzbekistan went on to take the gold. That, I'm sure, still stung with Gukesh, who still won the gold, I believe, on the top board. Both had amazing performances there.
Yeah.
They'll face each other plenty in the future.
They have faced each other plenty of times, and there we can see some of the stats that Gukesh has. You know, just 16 years old, became a grandmaster at 12 years old. At the Chennai Olympiad, he won a gold medal for his individual board performance, and he's the 3rd youngest grandmaster in the history of chess.
What took you so long, Gukesh?
Yeah, he's a table tennis lover. He also likes to meditate and do yoga.
Badminton, all the good stuff.
And let's have a look at who he'll be facing. Nodirbek Abdusattorov, age 18, grandmaster at 13. And take a look at those stats once again. You know, he helped his country, Uzbekistan, win the gold medal at the Chennai Olympiad last year, and I love this. On the under 18, he had an epiphany after he won that championship and said, you know what, this is the life for me. I want to become a professional chess player.
I want to be a fireman when I was 8.
And let's check out a very short video for these two players.
This was the players choosing the winner of the tournament, I would guess. That was very early in the tournament or before. Some of these names got eliminated quickly.
And everyone nominated themselves. How about that for positive self-talk?
Well,
except
but Kramnik chose
Dubov.
Daniil.
And Kramnik came very close. He almost made it to the final. And we
Didn't he eliminate Dubov? How can you pick Dubov and then kick him out? Makes no sense.
That's just life and karma. And now we are 30 seconds away from the beginning of play. And these two players have won themselves a guaranteed 8,000. Who will walk away with 18,000 euros today? We'll find out. But one thing for sure.
We should mention this could be 2 back-to-back matches, because if Gukesh, who hasn't lost a match yet, wins this one, then it's over. But if Nodirbek wins, they have to play again.
They do. And handshake. And they are off.
Here comes the horsey. Gukesh going with the Reti. We've seen him do that plenty in this tournament, saying, I'll get the pieces out. Nodirbek, as usual, blitzing our preparation.
Definitely, and we are seeing
D3, arguably not the most critical move. This line is supposed to be fine for black, but maybe Gukesh is saying, you know what, I have 2 horses, it's a blitz game, horses are tricky.
they're crafty pieces indeed, and Gukesh just blitzing out the moves. He knows the plan. He tried to establish a pawn advance on the queen side with b2, b4, but of course Nodirbek says nope, not going to go for that, and so the knights centralize themselves. And for black, it's all going to be about whether he can just push in the center. You know, he's going to do it in a very controlled way with e5 and f5, and if things get really good for him, he'll manage e4. But there you go, we see a pawn advance anyhow on the queen side.
Yeah, Gukesh forcing the issue. This is all supposed to be very fine for black, and it also looks like Nodirbek knows it. This pawn to b4 might have been not a surprise to him. Further pieces get exchanged. I would not be surprised, because I actually know this, if both players were still familiar with this line. Gukesh also blitzing out. Fancy moves like rook to b1 very quickly. Not even recapturing the knight, but going for the little Zwischenzug. Provoking the knight to give a check. Then he wants to sidestep with the king, saying, now my queen is open.
Yeah, not a good idea. Would be much more tempting for me just to skedaddle back with the queen to e7 and get
Why
the
not
king
knight
to safety.
c2 though? That's what I'm wondering.
I guess the queen can just step... Well, the queen can step forward, right?
Can go forward one square here. But yeah,
Okay.
he plays knight c2, because now you can't take the pawn on g7. And you can't take the queen either, because then black emerges a piece up, so queen to a2 has to be played. And yeah,
And
that's what he does.
both players blitzing out the moves as quickly as possible, and also their heart rates indicate that all is well. Gukesh with 101, but having said that, it just jumped up to 117.
Yeah, he thought he was losing a piece there for a second, but then he spotted queen a2, and it's back to normal.
It is.
Roughly equal position.
And Nodirbek 90, very calm. And okay, it's a bishop and knight against 2 bishops. But take a look at black's bishop on c8. Not the best of pieces.
It might enter the game one day. b6, bishop a6, bishop d7, bishop c6. Still looks equal to me. A pawn to b6 played.
And here
Gukesh
see
is
pawn.
going for the push in the center, trying
Okay,
to simplify.
big question. Are you going to capture pawns, or are you going to control that pawn? Okay, he moves his rook and is saying, hey, let me try to corral that pawn at some later date.
Yeah, I think only black can be better here. With the two bishops, these pawns aren't going anywhere. But of course the knight is very jumpy. Some knight c3, knight b5 can easily be missed. But objectively, black has to be fine.
And what about if white says, hey, let's gamble everything on that d pawn and get behind it. Instead, Gukesh says, hey, you know what, I'm going to go for a different plan. I'm going to expand on the king side. Maybe one day secure those light square weaknesses around the king. And Abdusattorov just saying, you know what, that queen was out there on no man's land. Let's go back.
Yeah, both sides maneuvering.
I was going to say repeat the position,
No.
but no, absolutely not. These two players are fighters, as you've indicated.
Now Nodirbek has a decision to make. Can he bring the bishop out? Now he decides to exchange pawns first. He takes d, but the white knight sitting very pretty on the d5 square.
Yeah, let's bring it forward, Gukesh.
Sure, I love that move.
I think it was not the best decision. I think there was... because the white knight can just jump in, as you've indicated. And...
Nodirbek looking a little worried. Does his heart rate say the same?
No.
Nah. 97, not a care in the world.
Looks can be deceiving, but we have the stats to prove it. Okay.
Bishop takes,
bishop
interesting.
takes.
He wants to keep the knight flexible. Also a nice square for the bishop. Bishop to f5, hitting the rook.
What next?
White has some options.
Rook is
Rook
coming to
d5.
attack the queen.
It's the queen, and now the pawn on f7 is sort of loose. But the computer says that was not the best move. Maybe the queen can go all the way back to f8, cover that pawn. And yeah,
It has to do that. And
Nodirbek back in business, no pun intended.
but the queen can come to f3 and still questions are going to get asked, because you put the bishop on the wrong square and I will attack it. Well, white will attack it. And well, Gukesh, he has just over 1 minute, and now Nodirbek, well, he has around 1 minute 15 seconds. He said, let's trade off bishops.
Yeah, he's defending well. Gukesh mentioned in his interview earlier that in his opinion Nodirbek's main strength was defense. He's certainly hanging in there, but white without the bishops would still be pressing a little bit, because the knight has a very nice outpost there. There it comes.
And white also has a very nice target in the b6 pawn. And but take a look at the clock times. Gukesh with 48 seconds. He does get 2 seconds extra per move, but this is really not that much time, especially in the heat of the moment.
Okay, one classy move. Invite everyone to the party. It's the opposite from birthdays chess. You gotta bring everybody to the action. And this is gonna be very, very unpleasant. Rook a8 check is there. Rook a7 is looming. The black king starting to feel the heat.
I agree. I mean, if you defend the 8th row, like you say, the rook will come down to the 7th, and okay, he allows the rook to the 7th, and instead decides to block
Disaster is
white's
looming.
access. It does look very treacherous for black.
There
I mean,
we
the rook
see.
will come to a8. Oh, but Gukesh.
Gukesh is looking for the finish. I can't see there. Feels like it has to be there. But he's looking for the final tactical blow.
Well, he has to be
to
practical here.
Finish this game off. Can't think forever.
Nope.
c7, takes the queen. Queen goes back. And where's the win? Because you feel it has to be there with all these pieces activated to the
He
max.
doesn't see it, so that's why he improves his king position.
Fair enough.
And he leaves himself with 21 seconds.
g6, you want to go h5. Oh, rook c6. There's a tactic.
There is
The queen cannot take because of knight takes e7. Then if the rook recaptures, you win the queen. Maybe he had that move, even a move earlier. Nice little spot by Gukesh, but it's still far from over.
And he has just 15 seconds. Ooh.
But his king is safer. Queen to c6. This does look tremendously dangerous.
His knight supported as well. Okay.
Nodirbek going for the counterattack, but it costing him a lot of material. Gukesh just retreating, threatening a knight fork. These guys are so resilient. No one ever blunders
But
it.
now can you...
Nope.
Oh, no, you can't go queen takes
There's a
pawn
knight fork.
because there's a knight fork. Well spotted by Gukesh. And now he's under 10 seconds.
He still hasn't managed to break Abdusattorov's defenses. There's offering exchange, but this endgame looks drawish, and Abdusattorov doesn't even hesitate. Takes, has a passer, brings his king.
Yeah, but the king is going to get to e4, and still work to be done for Abdusattorov.
He's thinking about it, pushes the pawn. Gukesh centralizes, now knight to c1 and knight to b3 to stop that guy would be natural.
Nope.
He's not doing it. He's saying, please push your pawn further. Not in love with that decision.
Okay, now the bishop is coming. Oh,
Should have stopped that pawn, Gukesh.
How is he going to stop that pawn?
Doesn't have to, it's a draw now, I would assume. f5, and everything disappears from the board. Another tremendous defensive effort by Mr. Abdusattorov. Clinging to the draw there, barely surviving.
Can't help but feel for Gukesh that this was a missed opportunity.
He was completely winning.
Completely winning, right? He was a pawn up and then just took some inaccurate decisions on account of his time. And there we see, first game ended in a draw.
Yeah, disappointing result for Gukesh. On the other hand, he managed to outplay his very powerful 2 years older opponent, and he won't feel too bad next game after the replays.
Yeah, and here we see just the beginning of Gukesh taking the initiative. He attacks the queen, drives the black queen back to a very passive position, and it felt like one-way traffic. And it all culminated with Gukesh getting that one pawn advantage. And here you go, beautiful location for white
This is where Gukesh was looking for the breakthrough. Maybe at that trick he would play later, even here, because he was attacking the queen. Let's see if we have that moment as well. No, this is where he decides to enter the endgame. I did not like the decision, but he got a little stuck making progress. And the endgame, Nodirbek with his usual tenacity. They hadn't managed to save. So draw in the first game. Nodirbek, yeah, here we see the final stages. But this b-pawn will cost the knight. That doesn't matter, because all the pawns get exchanged. So it will be a draw.
Yeah, it was a draw. But Nodirbek, again, riding out his luck with some resourceful play. And the players agree a draw. And now Nodirbek will be playing with the white pieces. And just to remind you all, if Nodirbek actually wins this match, well,
It ain't
Gukesh
over.
will still have one life left. And we will do the same thing all over again. What are the chances?
I would think it's slightly better than 50-50 for Abdusattorov now, just because he has an extra white. These two seem very evenly matched, and they're deservedly in the final. So I think
But we have seen Nodirbek be very shaky with the white pieces.
that is true. But usually when he was already in the lead, then it does something to him. But now that it's equal, he will try to put pressure. Maybe it's a more natural situation for him.
And of course he's playing his big rival, and 10 seconds from start of play. Clock is ticking down, the players ready, refocused, and
Let's
handshake. Go.
Pawn to e4, pawn to e5. Gukesh has been playing the Sicilian almost exclusively for years, and this is a sort of a trendy, half-jokey line. Pawn to a4, bishop to c5, not the main answer in this position, but it looks like Gukesh has had a look at this. At least he's playing quickly. Yeah, pawn to a4 looks ridiculous, but people have started doing this. I even saw Nodirbek using this in a recent game against Anish Giri, if memory serves. So it's a bit of a pet line of his. Knight to b5, trying to push the pawn to f4. And Gukesh is surprised by Nodirbek's opening.
Well, it looks a little bit strange for starters. I mean, the big question is, can you take the pawn in the middle? I don't think you can. You're going to get hit immediately with the queen coming to d5, so that's why he goes c6. And now the knight is going to go to d4.
I
Or
doubt
d6,
that. It's
knight to
d6
d6
or
check.
f4 and knight d6 he plays, yeah.
And now he
Or you can
takes
take the pawn.
And now the queen blocks. And, well,
Also preparation by Nodirbek, doing his homework, even in silly lines like 5a4 there. putting some pressure here.
And his heart rate going up to 110. Perhaps this is the excitement. And there we see him give a check. King under threat, needs to move. How are you going to block it? Block it with the bishop, light square bishop or the dark squared ones? Okay. And here again, Nodirbek, he is not to be messed around with. He knows exactly what he's doing. Retreats the queen to the edge of the board. And now he has to complete the development. I would be putting my bishop on g5 or bishop e3. Somehow the white king being in the middle of the board unnerves me. And if it unnerves me, maybe I can even get away with just castling.
Many options. You could also think about a rook lift, rook a3 to go to e3 or g3, but bishop to g5 does look like the most natural one.
That is the modern way of playing chess. Rook
Nodirbek
lifts.
thinking about it.
Well,
Gukesh was surprised in the opening, but he's not easily rattled. If you're confused by the format, if Gukesh wins this game, it's all over. Gukesh is the winner of the tournament. If Abdusattorov wins this game, then we get a rematch, because Gukesh still has 2 lives and Abdusattorov only has 1. This is like Super Mario Brothers. While if you get a draw in this game, we'll get an Armageddon, and then the same scenario repeats itself. I guess I confused you more with that explanation.
No. That made perfect sense. Gukesh, still on 2 lives. That's all we need to know. And he gets the right to a rematch if he loses. Okay, and that is a move from Gukesh attacking the queen.
Going for the endgame, but the endgame should be worse against the 2 bishops. And Abdusattorov loves his endgames.
He does love his endgame. And take a look at those bishops. They look pretty nice.
There goes one. There goes one.
Yeah, but you can't really take it off, because if you do, take a look at that H pawn.
Still take it. No, not Gukesh. Gukesh likes the horsey.
Yes. He also likes to have active pieces. And big threat on the board of knight takes pawn and knight takes bishop. So that's why Nodirbek plays this really weird looking bishop retreat.
That's fine. He's just stabilizing slowly. He knows he has time with the bishops to consolidate later. I like how he's playing this.
I also like what he's doing as well. Just looked weird. It was good. And kick away that knight. And expand on the queen side.
Such good fundamentals, always grabbing space.
Yeah, but it's the way to play these days. I've noticed Magnus Carlsen do it on a regular basis. He just puts his pawn all the way up to the 6th row and then says, that pawn, that's going to torture you in the endgame. Yeah,
and Gukesh keeps looking for activity, but he will continue being restricted by these tiny white little pawns. Pawn to f3, stopping a check. Sooner or later, bishops might take control.
They might take control, and I agree with you.
Pawn.
Love that move. And just keep that pattern in your memory banks. Now's the time just to mix things up, initiate chaos, Gukesh.
H5, looking for...
You stole the words right out of my mouth. I love that kind of plan. And Gukesh, not that much time. He is coming down to the minute mark, and if he lets Abdusattorov consolidate, then he's just going to stand worse.
Well, he's worse already.
Something.
Rook d8, maybe playing to move the king out of the way, then push the d-pawn. But bishop f2 will ask some unpleasant questions, like where's the knight going?
That's why he plays.
That's why he prepares it by covering the g2 pawn.
White's pawns, they're going to start advancing, and the great thing about bishops is they don't even need to be on active squares. They just have to have that potential. And the bishop now attacking the rook. Rook has to move, and the knight that doesn't have a good jump.
There comes the bishop. Abdusattorov slowly but surely chipping away at the black position. It's a beautiful game by him so far. The rook entering via the 4th rank. You can see.
Yeah. And
class.
Very good. The rook is going to swing over and target the h5 pawn. And Nodirbek now ticking down close to the 1 minute mark, and take a look at the way that he's gotten himself an outside pass pawn. This is good stuff.
Yeah, he keeps improving his position. Still having the 2 bishops, still having targets. So far, it's an absolute masterclass. Also ahead on the clock, 1 minute versus 32 seconds. But can he convert? Gukesh is not one to just collapse when being put under pressure.
No, and he moves his rook to the edge just to keep an eye on the passed pawns. I mean, one thing in Gukesh's favor is that the knight on e6 is pretty well placed. They can jump to c5.
His position is crumbling now. King e7 was a mistake. And after rook to b4, the knight has to give more ground. This doesn't look good.
And the rook stepping up to h7, but ooh, and look at that.
One pawn falls if Abdusattorov wants it, and he does want it.
And now, oh, okay. Abdusattorov in complete control.
Looks like we might get another match. Gukesh down to 8 seconds.
We're going to see another match. And look at that, he can't even take the pawn because of the pin along the 7th row. And for Gukesh, it's just about surviving. For Abdusattorov, it's just about converting. And look at this precision. Bishop targeting the a6 pawn, and he's ruthless. Another pawn falls.
Now.
Not much in it. 1 pawn goes down. Check.
This is resigns basically, 3 pawns down, and his king is exposed.
That's
it. He does resign.
And Abdusattorov with a comeback win, which means that we are now going to see our 3rd match. Wow. Gukesh now on his last life.
Well, they both are, so whoever wins the next match is the winner of the whole event. Gukesh had one match to lose, maybe. I'm sure he didn't want to lose it, but maybe it's in the back of your head. If I lose this one, I get another one. But now it's win or go home. Although if you win, you also have to go.
Yes. Well, here is a matter of money. There we see Nodirbek's great opening choice. He caught Gukesh by surprise and seemed to be in full control. Look at this, you know, he got the bishop pair, and then after that, he just kept maximizing his advantage. Beautiful play from...
Yeah, I think Gukesh played well for a while there, but then he allowed Nodirbek to gain a little too much space with his pawn on a5. And here we can already see the conversion part, where the pawn on b7 drops. Now white is a pawn up with an overwhelming position. The rest is easy for a player of Nodirbek's level. Took him a few more moves to completely dismantle the rest.
But I was impressed with the ease of which he did that, because he didn't have that much time on the clock, but he's just kept finding those precise moves and was utterly ruthless in the end. Good stuff.
The problem is for him, the job is only half done. Another match starts right now. Nodirbek with the white pieces. In case you're wondering why that is, it's because Nodirbek was in the losers bracket, in the lower bracket, while Gukesh had won all his matches. It's double elimination. You have to beat him twice. Here we see the final moves. This is hopeless. Rook to e1, probably picking up the piece. King d6, rook f6. Gukesh resigns.
He does, and both players now resetting for the last and final match.
In case you're wondering why there's no interview, they gotta play again. We'll interview the winner once they're done, but can't bother them now because, of course, there's a lot to think about. Do I repeat my silly opening from last game? This 5a4 is gonna work again? Do I do something else?
Well,
what's the strategy?
Well, you might as well repeat the same thing.
Nah, I don't think you can do it.
And 22 seconds. I predict that it will be Nodirbek who will be varying. And 15 seconds till the start of the second match. Nodirbek with the white pieces. What is he going to open with? e4, the same. I'm predicting the same. Jan says no. The bet is on. And shake hands.
You've covered all bases. You said both he will repeat and he will vary. I can't win. I can't win against that type of range. And here comes the repetition. On to A4.
Yeah, but this is what I was predicting. You said he would vary.
We have it on tape. We have it on tape.
But did I?
I want the
did
replay. I want the replay. On to A6 is the best move here, Gukesh, if you're listening.
And the players
thinking
are
about
not listening.
Pawn to A6 is
show
what
our viewers
Anish played against Abdusattorov as well. And white doesn't have a useful move, has to go D4. You take and play bishop B4 and you're fine. But Gukesh didn't have time to check this, doesn't want to repeat. Plays a more passive move here. On to D6, and now he's slightly worse again. Could not deal with the A pawn.
And okay, captures in the center. This almost feels like one of those Scotch positions where black is just slightly worse. And now the bishop comes to E2. Oh, not Scotch.
It's more of a Philidor. Yeah.
That's
Rook to E8, bishop F8. But yeah, Gukesh also not a natural E4, E5 player. He played E4, C5, the Sicilian, most of his life. And recently started adding E4, E5. So he might not feel at home in all these positions yet. But he will have to learn on the job today.
Yeah, he'll have to freestyle it. And talking about the position and the heart rates, take a look at Nodirbek's very cool 97. Whereas Gukesh, he's not under stress at all. His heart rate was around 97, but it's just jumped up to over 100. And both players around the 2.5 minute mark, settling in to the pace of the game.
Yeah, white is better. And once again, that pesky A-pawn grabbing all that space. Gukesh, I've mentioned it throughout the tournament. If he has a weakness in his game, it's still the opening, in particular with the black pieces. Because he's just started playing against this type of a position consistently. And he's, I think, converting to slightly more solid openings, E4, E5. That, of course, some stupid sidelines sometimes can catch him off guard like.
Yeah. And I like the way that Gukesh is playing, you know. He says, well, my dark square bishop is bad, let's relocate it to a better diagonal. And it doesn't seem like Nodirbek has actually played the most aggressive moves.
I disagree. I think Nodirbek is just comfortably better here with all this space, and I don't see how Gukesh can free his position. But he is certainly resourceful.
He is resourceful, and his position, it's passive, but it's solid at the same time. I mean, there's a nasty looking pin, so get that queen out of harm's way, and he does that. But we can see the bar to the side of the board, and that is basically how the computer assesses the position, and it says it's better for white.
Yeah, white just controls much more space. Doesn't need to do anything, just keep that space advantage. Go king h1, play some move, and make black stew on his 3 ranks.
But it's so difficult to do nothing. And there we see Nodirbek retreat his knight.
He's doing less than nothing. He's retreating and then going back. Now he centralizes.
Building time on the clock, nothing wrong with that. And the rook's now centralizing. What is Gukesh going to do? Okay, well, he's following the golden rule. When you have less space, try to trade off some pieces and now maybe move the knight back to where it came from. Up. Now we have some action. Knight has deposited itself on d5. Is this your Kraken, or does it have to get to the 6th row?
I don't know. I think it will have to be taken, and Gukesh takes it. So it was a short-lived Kraken, but maybe this gives black some added stability. Once again, we will have the bishop pair in Abdusattorov's hands, and Gukesh with the knights.
Yeah, and Gukesh.
White wants to establish the full bathtub here, move the knight out of the way, then push the pawns to c4 and b4. But he has to be careful to keep it all covered. Can he start with c4? He would like to.
And that would be a good idea. No, he moves his queen.
Offers the d5 pawn. But no, sorry, the rook is still there. And he'll queen to b4.
Well, I was just wondering whether he can initiate complications. Well, the one consequence of this queen moving is that you can play h6, which is what I wanted to do. And now Nodirbek says no. look at that. The queen sortie was actually to threaten an attack against your king.
Nodirbek almost a full minute up on the clock. They do get 3 seconds, 2 seconds per move. This is not Armageddon yet, but it's still a factor, of course.
Yeah, what is he doing? Queen is now moving over.
He's targeting.
Yeah, but I suspect that this is just a way to build time on the clock. What is the queen doing there apart from forcing the rook to defend the c7 pawn?
Just keep trying, Nodirbek. Queen b4. One day you'll get one. Can't catch them all.
One day, okay.
H6 trying to activate his bishop. Nice maneuver there by Gukesh, who looks like he's made it back into this game. Also typical for Gukesh. Might be in some trouble out of the opening, but then he's incredibly resilient.
And decision time for Gukesh. Does he trade of bishops?
Take it.
Or does he not? It's risky because you somehow naturally are quite apprehensive about allowing a pawn on g5. And oh, the knight is saddled on the edge of the board. If Nodirbek can keep it there, then white will have a big advantage. Okay, the knight centralizes, attacks the pawn. Rook is going to defend it.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this knight e5 move because it can get hit with f4 later. But yeah, there comes f4.
Now.
He might have lost some crucial time there.
And now the bishop comes and attacks. And now the knight is going to relocate itself to g7. But you've got to control the f5 square. And if you do that, there you go. Bishop out to g4. And 30 seconds and ticking for the 16-year-old Indian superstar. Knight comes out.
5 offering the knight exchange, but the other knight is somewhat dominated by the bishop. He's dreaming of putting it on e8 and d6, but we'll get there in time. My doubts.
And now the queen is going to move to the c3 square.
Yeah, Gukesh has to use his queen to block. His position is passive now. How can he free it? b6, trying to activate the rook, cover the pawn.
This is natural, this is good, but he has given Nodirbek a passed pawn on d4. This is lovely stuff. And then he's going to back that up with c4. But the knight on g7 is not a great piece, but it's a fantastic defender. And here comes Nodirbek's queenside pawns. The play is sharpening.
Yeah, white should be better, but it's still far from settled. It's not a stable advantage. Black has some counterplay with his a-pawn, which he could push. There it comes.
And the queen comes. Rook gets behind the passed pawn. That's where they should be. And again, Nodirbek playing
both sides using their queens to block their enemies' pawns, which are usually considered too valuable for such a measly occupation.
Bishop's come to c6.
do it.
And how to break through.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
Nodirbek is just playing tremendously. He keeps finding the holes in the black position, playing more quickly. The level this guy has is just so high.
And Gukesh down to 10 seconds, and his position is getting critical. And now he's taking a gamble. He's allowed the queen to b8.
Oh, and Nodirbek says, no, I was just bluffing.
Whoa.
This means Gukesh is back in the game, because now the a-pawn is running.
The a-pawn is running. But one thing that is also going to be running is the clock, and it's down to 7 seconds. Ooh, will the panic set in? And there we see Nodirbek try to control the runaway a-pawn by retreating the rook. And
he's lost control here. He first gave a pawn, then went back with the rook, and now Gukesh is very much back in business.
And now the black queen is going to activate itself. Look at that. She's eyeing up the king. See, shakes. Is he going to take the c4 pawn? No, not the c4 pawn. I was going to say the g5 pawn. Okay, now the c pawn can fall.
Yeah, he doesn't want it, because then the d pawn would have been unleashed. But it feels like Abdusattorov has slightly turned the tables yet again. Can he play for a win with queen f1? Because the knight on c7 is stupid now.
Well, if he wants to win, he has to do it.
He gets to. He's trying to evaluate
Does it?
Yeah. But now this is a quiet draw for draw agreed. Tense game. Gukesh suffering in the beginning, but once again fights his way back into it.
Got these youngsters, they're full of grit and resilience, and there we see the first result of the game one in the second match, and it was a draw, but as Jan said, Black was on the ropes. Gukesh having to fight with every ounce of his being in order to survive, and here we see Nodirbek putting the pressure on, Black's knight being forced to the edge of the board. It did look like here Nodirbek
here Black
full
was
control.
I thought here Black was fine actually. He lost some time with his knight e5 and then having to go back there went a little out of hand. But yeah, the problem Gukesh has is he's under pressure in the opening. He spends so much time, and then even if he's okay, he rarely has time to think. It makes it even more amazing how he manages to play all these good moves.
And well, we had saw the clock time there. He was surviving on just 9 seconds. And here we see another key moment where Gukesh's queen comes in order to secure some counterplays, and he can breathe a sigh of relief because the queen has mobilized enough to give a series of checks.
Yeah, he was wondering if he could take the pawn on c4 there, but then the d pawn advances, so in the end both sides decided enough excitement. Let's repeat moves, make a draw. That means we have a tricky situation now. Gukesh will play with the white pieces. If Gukesh wins, he wins the tournament. If Abdusattorov wins, he wins the tournament. If it's a draw, Armageddon.
Yes, and you said enough excitement. I think there's more to come, and we are 30 seconds away from the start of the second game. This one is going to be a thriller. This one is going to be amazing. I can't wait for it to begin. And for now, I think the advantage, the psychological advantage, is with Gukesh. He survived a bad position, and now he has the white pieces. He can set the tempo of the game. 6 seconds. We are in for a good one. And that's it. Handshake. They are off. Opening
Gukesh
with knight
sticking to
f3.
his guns, repeating this reti opening. And Nodirbek also usually loyal to his choices, probably didn't mind the line they played last game, so they're repeating it.
But the players will have had to delve deep into their own brains to come up with potential improvements. They will not have had any time. Yeah, it looks like it. But they would have had to have some kind of consideration, like where can I improve, what move can I do to add some pressure? Because it didn't feel like Nodirbek was in any trouble whatsoever.
I'm expecting exactly the same line, pawn to b4, exchange everything, and then at some point Nodirbek will have to deviate, but I'm wrong as usual. Gukesh deviates first, plays pawn to c5. This we've seen in the past. I think the likes of Vladimir Kramnik have played this move. If Black had white had time here to go knight f to d2, knight to c4, and put a knight on d6, you have a powerful position. But usually the computer just laughs at this, says Black is perfectly fine. Says go f5, e5. Computers don't respect this plan, but it always feels scary to me.
Well, it feels scary to me. I love the center. And here comes Nodirbek's pawns. But knights, they're crafty pieces.
Question is now, after f5, will he sacrifice with knight d6? I would guess yes to.
I think he has to. There's no other retreat square.
Exactly.
He's pulled that trigger. And come on, Gukesh. You're gonna challenge Nodirbek. And taking a look at the heart rates, we can see Gukesh. His is pretty high, up to 117. We have seen Gukesh's heart rate around about 90, whereas Nodirbek, his has risen to over 100. The situation is getting to both these players.
Nodirbek playing very passively, developing the bishop, allowing knight c4, then not taking it, but covering the b pawn. Now white can put one of his horses into the d6 square. It should have a pleasant edge.
I agree. And what's happening next? f5.
Nodirbek has lost the threat here. Gukesh, with the white pieces, found an antidote position where he keeps getting good chances against the very well-prepared Uzbek. But what to do next? Knight e to d6 strikes me as logical. I'm assuming he doesn't want to do it unless being invited by pawn to f5.
No, I think he's going to dive in.
There he
And
comes.
he does. Okay, knight is threatening to win the pawn on e5. So you have to defend that.
But how? Pawn to f6 weakens a lot of squares.
Yeah.
Sure, I like that move.
But if you don't do that and you say, hey, I'm going to win the c5 pawn, you know, white's pieces get a lot of freedom, and I'm not a fan of this move. This one feels like it's very weakening. And there we can see the bar to the left of the position actually saying that white is slightly better. And, well, Gukesh says, I believe in the power of knights and the extra pawn.
This is a theme between these two. Abdusattorov usually with the bishops, Gukesh with the knights, but here it's hard not to sympathize with the knights, pawn up, and what horse is there on d6 and e5. This could end really, really badly for Abdusattorov. He's a minute behind on the clock. He's a pawn behind on the board. The knights are looking pretty. Gukesh on the verge of tournament victory here. Abdusattorov, who, as Gukesh taught us, is a tremendous defender, has his work cut out for him.
Yeah, and a big threat on the
Thinking,
board.
rook f d8.
Needed to be done. You needed to cover the d7 square. Ooh.
But there is knight to c6, then the queen is hanging, so we can't do it. If takes, takes. No, what's the way through, Mr. Gukesh? Show us. Maybe knight to f5. Yeah, that's a tricky move. Threatening a check on e7, and then the fork, and also targeting the d4 pawn.
Okay. Well, what happens if the king covers the e7 square? Ah, you
Maybe just
still
take-
go in there.
Maybe you can, but you can also maybe just take the d4 pawn, I thought.
Wow.
Abdusattorov
Key
is
moment.
thinking, okay, fork threaten, pawn down. Maybe it's time to get that heart rate above 100. No, not yet. 99.
Big.
Oh, there we go. 113.
And
This is trouble.
it is trouble because the clock is ticking down, the heart rate is going up, the pawns might be falling off the board.
Combination of pawn count, heart rate, engine bar is not telling a pretty story here
And,
for Abdusattorov. 2 pawns down now.
and we have to...
2 pawns down. 1.5 minutes down.
Whoever wins this game will win the Armageddon tournament.
The good news for both of them is they're already qualified for the grand finale because they're the 2 finalists. But of course, there's money at stake, there's glory at stake.
There's bragging rights at stake. One must never
Very
underestimate
braggadocious,
the
these
power
guys.
of this. Who is the better prodigy? We'll find out. Okay, but
They're both
Nodirbek,
fire starters.
definitely, but not twisted. And the rooks comes to attack the pawn, but how is white gonna start making progress? He has to solidify those pawns.
Looks completely winning. The knight steps back into d6. I do not see Nodirbek coming back from this. Is this it? I don't want to jinx Gukesh, but it does look like the end is near.
Yeah.
10 seconds. 9. Nodirbek, do you
6.
know? You don't have time. Yeah.
Oi.
Does
Okay,
know.
well, one
Goes
pawn
for
falls.
this, but he pays a high price. Knight to d6.
It's coming in.
The king is in a bit of a pickle there because rook e8 check is actually
2,
leading
1.
to checkmate, and there it is.
There you go.
Gukesh wins the tournament. The 16-year-old wins it all. Congratulations to Gukesh. What an achievement.
Well, it is fantastic result from the 16-year-old teenager. He lost the first match, and that Nodirbek brought him down to his last life. But in this rematch, Gukesh is the one that takes it. He is the Asia and Oceania champion, and he qualifies as well as Nodirbek Abdusattorov to the grand finale, which will be taking place in September. What a match.
Yeah, we could see Gukesh struggling in the first game, but then with the white pieces, he found a recipe, a position where he's comfortable to play against Abdusattorov, put him under tremendous pressure twice, both of their matches. This time, He broke through Abdusattorov's defense. Really didn't give him much of a chance in that game. What an achievement for Mr. Gukesh.
Here we go. Here is the Asia and Oceania champion.
Not just Asia, Oceania as well. Don't forget about that. And will he join us?
Yeah, he most certainly will. And we look forward to having him in the studio, walking that winner's walk.
I would even vacate my seat for him.
And
let's
check
have a look
out
at some
the replay.
He picks up the second pawn, and it was desperate times for Abdusattorov already. As always, fighting hard, freeing the rook there to target the d3 pawn, but coolly and calmly, Gukesh activated his pieces further, then would find inroads towards the black king. Here the knight comes to d6, the rook comes to e7, and then rook to e8 was leading to checkmate. Gukesh taking his time here, but there's no stopping the threat. Rook check, rook takes, rook checkmate.
And there you can see the clock ticking down for Abdusattorov, and he allows checkmate. And with that, game, set, and match to the 16-year-old Gukesh. Incredible performance by him. He's been so calm, collected. Wonderful, wonderful performance from him.
Let's switch to Fiona, who should be with Abdusattorov, whom we should also congratulate, by the way. Qualified and tremendous achievement as well.
Nodirbek, what a crazy, crazy day for you. Let's start maybe with the first match against Kramnik, because that was really crazy. Can you tell us how your emotions after that match?
Yeah, it was really hard. I mean, it's just, yeah, he played very well and more or less played better than me in every game, but thanks to my speed and resourcefulness, I just managed to hold on. And yeah, in the Armageddon, I got, I think, very pleasant advantage after the opening, but then I played some, maybe a couple of slow moves, and he equalized, and then, okay, my only try is to just stay in the game and to hope for his time, and yeah, I luckily managed it, but yeah, it was very, very shaky and very shocking moment.
And let me ask you, I know, of course, you would have wanted to win this tournament, but still you qualified to the finals in September. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's very good for me because I had many every chance to be eliminated in this tournament, and so yeah, I'm very happy to qualify, and of course it's very nice, and I will try to show my best.
And we look forward to having you back then. Congratulations. For now, back to the studio with Jovanka and Jan.
Thank you, Fiona, and it is our great pleasure to have here with us in the studio the winner of the Asia and Oceania qualifier, Gukesh. Wow, how are you feeling?
Yeah, it's a great feeling. I was always looking forward to win some strong, faster time control events. I've never won a strong event in blitz, especially. So I was I'm quite happy to finally get it off my back.
Are you annoyed? Because I remember when I was doing commentary, often I was even referring to you as Gukesh. He's more of a specialist in classical. He did amazing at the Olympiad and so on, but he doesn't seem to be taking rapid and blitz so seriously. Is that a wrong stereotype that you finally proved wrong?
I think I've always been quite decent at rapid and blitz, but it's true that in 2022 I didn't take rapid and blitz very seriously, but yeah, I kind of realized that at some point it's gonna change. Classical is not going to be the main thing, so I started to focus more on rapid and blitz as well. I mean, still I would say classical is my expertise, but I'm working on rapid and blitz too.
Okay.
How do? You play online, or what's the trick?
Yeah, I think it helps to have some different repertoires for rapid and blitz. As you probably saw, I was playing some specific openings and yeah.
Talk us through the match. So the first one didn't go so well, but and then in the second one you were suffering a little with the black pieces, but then you caught him with white.
Yeah. So the first game, of course, I was completely winning.
Yeah. In
I
the
think
first match.
Yeah, in the first match, in the first game, I was cleanly outplaying him, and then yeah, as usual, his defense is just incredible. Yeah, I was a bit upset about that, but yeah, and then the second game he played quite well. I mean, this knight b5, it was quite annoying to face over the board in the opening, and yeah, he won that match deservingly. And then second game, of course, I was in first game I thought I was going to lose, but yeah, I managed to hold on, and yeah, final game I'm quite proud of.
Congratulations, we were having such a great time watching in this event. Been a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And here we have another Armageddon that will be coming up on the 8th to the 14th of May, and take a look at some of these amazing female players. I mean, these are grandmasters. These are the best in their countries. We have Alexandra Kosteniuk. She's been a former women's world champion. Hampi Kanaru, a former women's title contender, and then we have Bibi Sara Asubieva. I mean, these are the who's who of women's players, and they're just incredible.
Can't wait for the event. More fast-paced action coming soon in May already. Thank you so much, and thank you, Jovanka. Been a great pleasure doing this show and watching all the action with you.
Yes, it's been my pleasure, Jan. You know, I've had a fantastic time, and I also want to thank everyone at home who's been watching, and of course everyone involved with the production. It's been an incredible experience. And for everyone watching, we've had some brilliant moments of chess, we've had some heartbreaking, and we've also had some heart-stopping moments. You've been with us all the way, and I'd like to say, we'll see you on the chessboard.